Hey guys, today we're going to be actually modeling a logo. Now there's two ways you can actually model a logo. One of the ways is to use a spline. However, the problems with using splines is the fact that you're not actually modeling in quads, and you're technically not modeling at all. You're actually using modifiers in order to just extrude them splines out. And you can only do so much with this type of method. Now if this logo or something is going to be in the background, or it's just going to be a still, then you can easily get away with just using a spline. However, in order to make a spline, you would have to have the Adobe Illustrator file or import it from Photoshop. So you do have to do some work in an external program. However, I like to model my logos in the aspect that if I'm going to model this logo, it's obviously going to be used many times. So I want it to be modeled in a way that I can use in any situation. And this is the method that we're going to be doing today. We're actually going to be modeling it in quads. So quads are four-sided polygons, so they'll have 4 verts and 4 edges. An end-gon is something you want to stay away from, but you can get away with flat surfaces. That's 5 or more points, and a triangle is 3 points, which you definitely want to stay away from because they cause horrible edging when you add a subdivided surface, such as here the hypernerbs. Some really good news with Cinema 4D release 15, which will be out I think beginning of next year or maybe end of this year. The modeling tools have been improved tremendously, so hopefully it's going to be a lot easier, but today we're going to be just using the standard tools. So first thing I want to do is go to my layout and switch to the modeling layout. This is of course a modeling layout, and it's really ideal because all the tools you need, all the tools you will regularly use, are already down here at the bottom, so it's fantastic. We're going to go into the front view and we're going to go to the options, go to configure, and what we want to do is find something for the back, which is basically going to put a background image in, and we're going to find this on my desktop. It's called Batman logo, big. And I got this off Google just by searching logo, and this was the first one that came up, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to model. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start off by creating a polygon instead of working from a primitive, because when you work from a primitive, sometimes it can be difficult because you have multiple layers. Like with a cube, because it's 3-dimensional, it's going to have a front and back face. With a polygon, we're just working with like a plane essentially when it's flat, so it's a lot easier to work with, especially when trying to keep everything quads. It can become a little bit difficult, and it can become more like a puzzle than anything, and I'll show you as we go through this. So I'm going to basically use this tool. Now you're supposed to use it clockwise, so from left to right, down, left, and then back up to the beginning. I like to use it the opposite way because I'm going to be modelling on the left hand side. It's just my preference. So the one thing you will have to do is make sure you flip the normals at the end, which I'll show you anyways, so do not worry. So I'm going to click here, click over here, down and across, and I'm making a quad. So we've got our first polygon, our first quad. So we're going to make a new one, and what we're trying to do here is keep them evenly spaced and also keep confound to this surface that we're trying to model essentially. So you will have to make these bigger and bigger the more you go around. So I'm going to go from here like so. Now I know we need a point up here, which is essentially going to be a triangle, and I did say we needed to stay away from triangles. And why is that? Because they are bad. But what we want to essentially do right now is add in some points. So I'm going to leave the top, even though it looks really weird right now. There's no point adding extra edges in until I know what I'm doing down the bottom edge, because we are going to have to connect and loop these at some point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a point here, and this is just going to be a random point. It doesn't have to be anything specific. What we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, is the base edges. So we know here we need an extra edge, so I'm going to go to the knife tool, put a slice in here. I'm going to grab the actual magnet tool. Normally when you're moving points you would grab a point and then move it. With the magnet tool, it does it for you. So I'm going to hold the middle mouse button down and I'm going to move it to the left, which is going to downscale the actual size, the radius. And then it allows me just to drag these around, which is so much easier. So as you can see here, we have a bit of a problem. So I'm just going to move this across and we have fixed it. So it is really as simple as that. So what I want to do now is go back to the Polygon tool and continue to create these. Now I know we need a point up here, and especially to connect this up here to make a quad here. So what I'm going to do is go to the knife tool. I'm going to bring an edge in here all the way down. It doesn't have to be neat right now because we are going to be adjusting these to make everything even. So I'm going to click here, drag down, click, 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 and finish. So now we've got this section. Now what we need as well is we need another point in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the knife tool, I'm going to click and drag up here all the way to the top. And the reason we're doing this is because we're trying to make all these quads. Now it might be a little bit hard for you to understand right now, but let me zoom in at the bottom. So here we technically have a quad, although before we had a triangle because we had one edge, two edge, and three edges. Now we added an extra point in here. All we have to do is grab this point and move it up. And now this becomes a four-sided point, a quad essentially. If it was back how it was normally, it's technically a straight edge with a point added to it, so you will get some shading errors. So you do have to make sure you have these points accurately placed. So if we look at the top now, we've got a bit of a problem because some of these, like here, it's pretty much the same. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we need to drag this down, and that will leave us with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we need to move this over here, and the reason we're getting this error here is because of this point on the end. So all we need to do is grab this point here and either merge it or delete it or add an extra point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the knife tool, I'm going to make this point all the way up here. So now we've fixed that. Now we can go back to our edge and just delete this polygon because we don't technically need it now. We've fixed this area, which is what we started out to do, is fix this area. And when you come to a point like this, it's very important that you have the points looking like this. So we have essentially a triangle, and then we add a point to the middle of it and pull it down. That way we get a quad, and it's very important, especially when it comes to basically sharpening up these edges. So what we've got essentially here now is something that looks relatively decent. Now I'm pulling these points over because it just doesn't have enough geometry in this section in order to keep conform to this circle. So what we've got here is we've got a gap that we need to fill in. So one of the things you can do is just create a massive polygon. So we're going to create one from here all the way down to here, and click on this one and then finish it up. Now that we've got this big polygon, we can see where we actually need to add more detail. So essentially we need to bring this across, and that will fix our issues, and then we can grab this and move it over here, and same with these, and just kind of line them up as best as possible right now. So now we've got this section, we want to just continue that pattern by filling in the most complex areas. So for us really it would be the bottom section here. So these are going to have to be a little bit tighter because there needs to be more geometry in this area. I'm just going to go to points because I prefer to work in points, and again I'm going to come down here, and I'm kind of making a border right now, and again we've got another point, so we want to fix this shortly, which means we need another segment going across here simply because we don't have enough geometry. We could in fact bring this down like so and then use this line as the extra geometry, but I don't want to do that yet. So I'll just leave it as like that for now. If we do need to add another edge, then we can easily. But right now we want to have as least amount of polygons as possible, but the more amount to fill up this entire area. It is very much a balancing act, and it does take practice and it does take a lot of patience, but the upside of doing it this way far outweighs just extruding it from your typical spline. It really is so much better. So I'm going to make a big point up here like so. Now as you saw, down here we could add an extra point going across here, but we also need an extra point here. So we could grab this tool and we could in fact put a point there, or we could put a point down here, and then we could help move these other points around. So I'm going to grab the magnet tool, and as you can see we're going to bring these down like so, and I'm going to bring this one across because it's just going too far up and we don't need it like that. So we've got this point here, we can move that across, bring that one down, and now we see we're going to get this issue where this point is pretty much on its own. So in order to accomplish that, we're going to undo that, and what we can do is we can grab the knife tool and we can bring this across here because I know we're going to need it now, and then grab the magnet tool and just adjust this slightly. Now I can move these ones up as well because they're very close to the other ones. So just evening these out. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. And again, just giving this as much detail as possible. Like so. So that's looking pretty damn good. So what we can do now is grab a Polygon tool again and make a very big selection across here. Like so. Now there's two things that's going on here. One, we've got this edge here and it's basically ending down here. Now what about this section here? So we're gonna have to add more points in eventually, but for now what we can do is we can probably add one more lining without making this extremely dense. So what I'm gonna do is need to think a little bit here. Let's grab the Polygon Selection tool, and what we're going to do is we're going to create this triangle here in the corner, and then we're going to create another triangle over here in the corner as well. And the reason we're creating these is because we know they need to be triangles in that corner. So what we can do now is we can build out from there. So from here we can build there. Now of course this looks completely weird, so we're going to fill in this triangle here, and then that will allow us to adjust these in the way that we need them to be adjusted. So what we're going to do is going to grab the knife tool and make a point here because that's where we do need a point, and I'm going to bring this down and connect it to here. However, we don't have a point here yet, so let's grab the Polygon Selection tool and we're going to incorporate this section here like so. Now this is where it can become a little bit messy. I've modeled this before, but that was yesterday, so just bear with me. So what we need now is to get rid of this triangle first off. So I'm going to grab these points and move them down slightly, and the reason we're moving them down is because we need to make extra room for some of these sections up here. So we may need another point in here, which means if we grab our knife tool, we do have to adjust that. Grab this and bring it down. Can bring that in. So there we go. This top corner looks pretty good right now. We can bring that down slightly. Bring this over slightly. So now we're going to need another line in here. So what I'm going to do, grab the knife tool again and do a big slice across there. Grab the magnet tool and adjust these and bring that one out, maybe up a little bit like so. So what we've got here now is another triangle. So how would we get rid of this triangle? Well, technically what we want to do is make a point in there and a point over there. And then what we can do is grab the magnet tool and just adjust this out. However, we're left with kind of a harsh line. So what normally I would do in this kind of situation would be just to completely get rid of this section here. And then I would go into the magnet tool again, and I would adjust these to form the proper area. And again, we're going to have a problem here. So what we can do is we can grab the knife tool and again bring this across, because we are going to need extra geometry over here. And again, we're going to have some more lines, so we can go to the edge tool, and it may turn out that we need to just get rid of all these, which we can just dissolve and see what we're left with. So ideally what we could do now is grab the knife tool and put a big slice through there. We can also take this one and do another slice through there, and this one can go through here like so, and I think we could get away with possibly bringing it over. Nope, we want it maybe this section and this section. Yeah, so now we can grab this section and dissolve it, and we can start figuring out the way we're gonna approach this basically. So let's go and grab our sides and just adjust these, making sure we've got enough edges to keep this curve, which it does look like we do have, which is nice. So what I'm going to do is going to grab the knife tool, connect this to the center of this object, and then I can get rid of that edge because we don't actually need it. So dissolve that, please dissolve that. Okay, I'll just delete you instead. Go back to this tool and create our quad in this bottom section here. Now we also, looks like we need another edge in here, so we can delete this edge and we can grab the knife tool and put an edge through there, grab the magnet tool, and we can just adjust these. So we need another edge in there, which ideally could come from there. So let's grab this tool and bring this down. So it is pretty much a puzzle, and the more often you model like this, the quicker you will be able to sort out all the quadded areas. It does take practice. You won't get it overnight, definitely not, because it does take a lot of brain power in order just to figure out, you know, like this here, we've got triangles and triangles. So what I like to do is go in and select the triangles and the edges that don't really belong, like these ones here, and just dissolve them. And it will allow me to kind of work out what needs to be done. So now we've got this big open area, we can go to the knife tool and we can say if we go across here, we're going to make a big quad. If we go across here, we're also going to make a big quad. Now if we go up here, we're going to make a quad, and if we go up here, we're also going to make a quad. So the further up we get, the more this becomes less and less, if you like. So now what we can do is perhaps connect these together like this, and what we could do is just fix this area here. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it is a really nice feeling once you do get it. So I'm going to grab my knife tool, I'm going to bring this edge out, and then we've just got two edges which technically could connect to, let's see, one there and 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So that was very lucky because we've got the amount of polygons we need and we've kind of cut it off now, which as you saw was a little bit difficult, but it is well worth it in the end. So all we need to do now is pretty much just even out these polygons in order to make it reliable in terms of topology flow. So your goal here is to even these out as much as possible while maintaining the flow and it is a little bit easier said than done in some situations, but I think we've pretty much nailed it here. We can adjust a few of these, bring these up a slight amount, adjust these. We just want a very nice subtle curvature on each of these, and you could spend hours tweaking this, but it is a lot more satisfying when you have a very nice clean mesh that is ideal for modeling on. So now that we've got all this, what we want to do is go into the perspective, of course, because this is important. Make sure everything is connected and closed up, which it looks like it is. Go to the polygons and select all, Control A. Now deselect the orange ones by using Control, and so you're left with just all of the blue ones, which mean they're flipped. So right click and go to reverse normals, Control A again, make sure they're all orange. Perfect. Go to point mode, make sure nothing is selected or everything is selected, and then right click and go to optimize. That's going to weld any points that aren't necessarily welded together. You're then going to grab all these middle points, and you're going to, in fact, let's just, one more thing before we finish, add an extra point in here and connect this up, and then that way we can make this a little bit tighter, and again bring that up so we don't get that really weird result. Again, just make sure everything is optimized, connected. Again, select all these edges like so, and then go to the actual X coordinates in scale and press 0 and enter. That's going to straighten everything out, and then you can go to the X in position and 0 everything out, and that will center it up. So when you go to the array up here and go to symmetry, you will get a perfect symmetry, which looks pretty damn nice. So what you do now is you select both of these, right click, go current straight to object, and hide the originals. Never delete your originals because you'll regret it, trust me. And then again, we're going to select all of these and go to optimize. You can do it without selecting them all if you wish. And that looks pretty damn good to me. So what we're going to do now is grab the Polygon Selection tool, grab all these, and right click, go to extrude, and we can extrude these out. Now if you want to do something fancy, such as beveling these edges, feel free to hit the bevel up, something like so. And then you want to bevel it again slightly, and then right click and go to extrude inner, and extrude this inwards slightly, and that's going to give you that hard edge, and that really helps when subdividing this. So we're going to add a hypernerbs on here, and you can see from the look it looks fantastic. Now the only problem with this is, one, you don't have a thong tag, so right click, go to Cinema 4D tags and throw in a thong tag, angle limit, and you can put this to something like 60, which will give you nicer results on the edges. So that's the only thing that happens when you create a polygon. It doesn't come with a thong tag. Now as you can see, if we go into the front, you can see these edges aren't particularly lining up, and that's because they have no control edges, which is a pain in the butt. So there's two methods to doing this. There's an easy way and there's a bit of a harder way. So the easy method is to turn off the hypernerbs by pressing Q when you are on your polygon. Go into the edge mode, grab your live selection and zoom in to the top and the front polygon like this. Turn on hypernerbs with Q, hold the period key down or the full stop key down, and move your mouse to the left or right while holding your left mouse button, and that will soften or sharpen your edges. Now this is a bit of a cheat, and you can see this working interactively. If you zoom in and you basically pick these, you can make any edge sharp or smooth And of course this does look pretty damn good when you render out. It looks sharp as it should. The only problem with this is if you save this out as an OBJ to import into another application like Maya or I don't know, 3ds Max or something like that, then these will most likely not keep because this is native to Cinema 4D and its hypernerves. So the other method is a little bit longer, but it is worth it, and it's basically adding in control edges. So the way you would do this is right click, go to the knife tool, make sure visible only is unchecked, because what you want to do is add in slices through the entire mesh. So with these points it's very easy in fact, because we can make a cut in each corner like so, and that was a bit wonky actually, so something like that. And because this has already a triangle, well not a triangle but a point in it, we can just connect these up and we get a quad on each side, which when we hypernerves again gives us a very nice sharp edge. It's not 100%, that's because these points are closer to the top, but again you can go in and be more accurate at this if you want. However, when you come to a point like this that doesn't have this triangle point that we made, you will have to go to the loop selection, and you can't do it in this perspective like this. The reason you can't do it in that perspective is because you won't get the top. You'll get something like this, so you're missing out the top two polygons, which isn't really ideal because you won't get a good smooth. So what you'll have to do is zoom in and go to the back face. Now because we don't have any polygons on the back, it's actually going to be very ideal for us. Now again, the smoother you want this, the closer you zoom in, and of course the closer you get to the original edge. Now one of the problems with this is, depending on how your topology is set out, you may get a harder edge at the bottom. So you can see the top is perfect, it's sharp, it's how we want it. However, if we do come down to the bottom, we start to get some issues depending on the flow of your topology. So as you can see here, we have 2 points very, very close together at the edge, which is going to cause a little pinch. However, in this case, it's actually looking very ideal because it doesn't look out of place. Although sometimes you will see a noticeable kink, and to fix that, all you would do is go into the points mode, zoom in and grab some of these points on the edges, like so, like these ones, not them ones, just, god damn you, just these ones. And then you can just use either the right click and use the slide, or you can just move them up manually and just basically break them out. If you use the hypernerves on, you can get a really good accurate reading of how it's going to look, and you just want to spread these apart basically. You can also do the same with these just by spreading them apart, so grabbing these and moving them, so the actual look of this isn't as crazy. So if we go into the shading, you can see we're going to get some really bunched up geometry or polygon or topology here. As we get further down, because we're moving them further apart, they're trying to even themselves out, which is nice. So ideally what you would want to do is go through and just move these out, and that way you can get a little bit of a better result and not as bunched up. It's not crucial, especially on a flat plane like this, but when you are going over the edge, you know, it does help. So again, let me just show you. We'll go into the lines. We'll right click and go to the knife tool. We're already on the loop selection, so I'm going to zoom in really, really far and add 2 points on each edge, which is going to give this super, super sharp edge. You can also add one here as well, which will go all the way around, which will sharpen everything up, which is nice. And yeah, if you go to the top, you can see again noticeably the top does have a bit of a hard pinch at the top here. So again, all you would do is just go in and grab these edges and move them down. Make sure only selected visible elements is checked off, so you can select all of them polygons. And make sure, you know, these hypernerves is on so you can see the flow. And that is pretty much it. So they're your 2 options, and that's what you would do to finish it off. I'm not going to finish it off here because I'm pretty sure you guys are capable of adding in the control edges. I just don't want to take up more of your time than necessary. But I mean, this is a very nice method, and of course when you render it out, it looks fantastic. And you can add crazy dynamics to this. You can make it soft, you can make it into paper, and all that kind of things. And you can do that simply because of the topology. Dynamics work really well with good, strong topology. So if you've got triangles or stuff in your mesh, it's just not going to work. If you've got evenly spaced out, pretty decent quads, then you can, of course, get away with a lot, and it does look fantastic. As you can see, even the low poly of this looks pretty damn good, and we are very, very close to everything really. So as you can see, it does look fairly decent, and with some hypernerbs on, this is subdivided 3 times. It looks absolutely amazing. So if you throw a material in here, some really cool lights, make sure you've got all the sharp edges in, it will look fantastic. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you do create a logo, please PM me your finished product. It'd be really nice to see your topology workflow, and don't be shy to send your pictures in as a PM. Upload it to God knows what the kids using these days, photo bucket, Dropbox, you know, just upload it to there, send me the link, and in a next video I'll post what you guys have done so I can show everyone that you guys are awesome. So again, don't be afraid to send them in. I really do like to see what you guys produce, and especially if you do use the tutorials. But that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I will reply. And if you want, you can subscribe as well. And I will catch you guys next time. See you guys.